Ulumanaka Fiji, and welcome to For the Record. Digicel Fiji has been making the headlines for the past few months, and only 6 weeks ago secured Sky Pacific, its newest business venture, the subscriber-based pay TV service. And only a few days ago, the executive chair of the Digicel group, the man himself, Dennis O'Brien, was in Fiji to oversee operations here and around the region, meeting with the heads of the Pacific operations. And Fiji, of course, is a vital link for Digicel in not just Fiji, but the region itself. Our guest tonight is the Chief Executive of Digicel Fiji, Mr. Darren McLean. Darren, thank you very much for being here with us tonight. It's interesting times for Digicel, mainly because of the new venture, of course, Sky Pacific. It's the talk of the town. It's something that your subscribers would be talking about. There's a lot of questions coming up about what is in store for Sky Pacific now that it's a Digicel entity. How are you approaching this acquisition and continuation of services?
Thanks, Edwin. It is indeed a really exciting time, like both personally and professionally, to have such a significant new product in the portfolio. And I guess how we see it is that this is part of our broader strategy, as Dennis outlined at his press conference this week. But Digicel, there are 32 Digicel markets around the world, and we have a joined up strategy across those markets to become a total communications and entertainment organization. And so we see TV as front and center, part of that plan. And if you look around, actually in the Pacific, this isn't the first time we've stepped into the pay TV area. We've had TV services in Tonga for a number of years. Maybe 2 years ago, we launched a very significant pay TV service in PNG. But now, with the acquisition of Sky Pacific, it gives us, I guess, it enables us to become overnight the most significant pay TV operator in the region. And that's sort of part of our overall plan, to bring all the assets to bear on our new pay TV subscribers.
There's a lot of legacy issues, or a lot of issues that Digicel has inherited in the acquisition of Sky Pacific. Take us through what some of these initial challenges are for you and how you plan to overcome them.
Yeah, I mean, there has been, and I think the previous, the Fiji TV team, I guess, took Sky Pacific to where they could, and it's 15 years old, and I think everyone, there are various areas to improve, but ultimately, one of the things I've learned is people are very bonded to their Sky Pacific service. But we said at the start, around September, October time last year, that there was a few areas, a lot of work actually to be done in getting some of the basics right, and getting some of those hygiene factors sorted, and getting the customer experience improved. Now, that's ongoing. As you said, we're 6 weeks in, and we're definitely not at the end of it, but we're mostly through the sort of the central part of it. Some of the issues we've had to address is we took over this business a relatively short time after the enormous disaster that was Cyclone Winston on the 20th of February. And so one of the things that, how that impacted Sky was that, we have a satellite dish that sits, that's almost a metre across, that sits like a sail on top of tens of thousands of homes around Fiji. And we know that there was about 35,000 homes had severe damage. But even if the home didn't have damage, high winds can cause misalignment issues on dishes across the country. So we estimate there's probably been 3,000 to 4,000 homes that need some sort of remedy. We had about 1,500 to 1,600 open care tickets to address and remedy in that at the time that we took the business over. And we got through all of those in the month of April, which was a huge amount of effort. So we've had about a dozen teams on the road since we took this business. We've increased the size of those teams since we took this business over. It's actually a very simple fix, but it is it's a 30-minute job. But you add onto that an hour to get there, an hour to get home, or to get to the next job. You can do the math yourself, and it's a very time-consuming exercise to visit several thousand homes. We think that we're about 75% the way through that, which we're very happy with. So I think by middle of June, my estimate would be by middle of June, we would have all of those homes sorted in terms of getting that basic level of alignment remedied. But then you've got things like our billing processes and our customer service and so on. So if you think about it from a call center perspective, We've increased the number of people taking calls. Now we're having some challenges there as well, but that's diminishing now. We've opened up new distribution channels. I think Sky customers will appreciate, that it was sometimes hard to get to locations to pay bills if indeed the customer wanted to do that directly. Now there are about 14 Digicel locations that are open, extended hours to take Sky payments. Then how the reminders work, how the invoicing goes out, how we call customers now to give them advance notice of their bill becoming due. Those are all things that we've had to look at and improve and ramp up in order that customers can have a more seamless experience on Sky.
These are all sort of behind the scenes, sort of back office operations that, of course, you've identified and you're going to work on. What about the service at home? What improvements can a subscriber expect when they turn on their Sky Pacific channel?
I guess there's I think there's just three areas. One is that we've already introduced new content to Sky. So one of the conditions which we must operate within is no local content. So Fiji 1 came off the Sky Pacific platform on the 1st of April. The Pacific channel on channel 50 came off the platform. So we've backfilled those with our TV1 and TV1 Action, which is a 24-hour sports channel. And it's gone down, people miss their Fiji 1 on Sky, make no mistake, but the TV1, the two new channels we've added have actually gone down really, really well. And in particular, a new 24-hour sports channel, which is full of rugby. So that's the first change we made. The second change we're going through now is improving the picture quality. So there's some adjustments we've planned in, and we've started to implement those now in terms of increasing the quality of the signal coming down into homes. And that change was made at the start of May. And I was away for around a week at the start of May, and I can see the difference now very clearly, especially on the sports and the fast-moving programs. And those changes will continue to be implemented. There's a very large number of channels on the platform. There's 25 channels on the Sky platform, so it's important that we optimize all of those as best we can. Then the third part of it, which is the more exciting part, is the new content, the other content we're looking to add. So as well as TV1, TV1 Action, what I can say for the first time tonight is that this month we'll be launching a new movie channel on Sky Pacific before the end of May, which I am certain is going to go down really, really well with our Sky customers. Customers have got used to what they have now, and that's okay. But we're looking to raise the bar with pay TV in the Pacific, and this is part of that. So movies and then several other new shows over the early part of June.
All right, with that we will take a break. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Good evening, welcome back to the show. We're speaking with the Chief Executive of Digicel Fiji, Darren McLean, about Digicel itself and primarily at the moment Sky Pacific and what the future holds. Darren, you spoke about new content. There are also a number of channels that have been on the Sky Pacific platform from day one or from the early days. Are they going to stay, or are you looking at revamping some of the existing channels as well?
Well, we're at the maximum in terms of the equipment, the technology that we've acquired in terms of the number of channels. So we can't add in new channels without taking something out. So there's definitely going to be changes. There's definitely going to be channels that are retired off the platform. But I guess what we're using as our compass here is customer feedback. So we've done a fair amount of research now because we've had a lot of time to plan for this. And we're pretty clear about what people want from their Sky service. Our Hindi content is immensely popular. Everyone knows Sky Pacific is famous for rugby and sports and the Super Channel. And you've seen we've already increased the number of sports channels on the platform. But the other pieces of feedback we've got are around music, movies, and other sports content. So we're using the customer, there's always going to be some trade-offs, right? And it's a balancing act. But when the majority of customers are saying to us, please give us this and you can have that, then that's okay by us. So we've already planned in, overall, by the end of June, we think we'll have made 9 content changes or programming lineup changes. 2 are done and 7 more to go, probably 6 or 7 more to go. a very significant one, as I mentioned before, in terms of the movie channel this month, but some equally exciting changes throughout June, covering entertainment, sports, and education.
The sports bit is interesting because Digicel, the regional business, holds a lot of rights for a lot of sporting organizations and broadcast coverage. Is that what you'll be pulling into, and what possibilities does that open up for viewers on Sky Pacific?
Absolutely. So, rugby is the passion in the Pacific. We all know that. So Digicel has the Pacific rights for all of the Super Rugby. But also, we're coming up into the winter season for Southern Hemisphere, so all the Southern tours, the Southern Hemisphere tours that come through Australia and New Zealand, playing Wallabies and All Blacks in South Africa. Those tests will all be on Sky. The Rugby Championship will bring onto Sky. Of course, the Sevens tournament is almost at an end, but we can also look forward to the Olympics. So there's actually a lot of sports content that we'll be seeing between now and October, before we get into the Christmas break. But there's a couple of other surprises we have up our sleeve for June, which is in the sports area, which have never been seen before in the Pacific. A very strong male bias, I have to say, but I think are going to be really, really popular with our viewers. So I can't reveal just yet what that is, but there's only a few more weeks to wait for that.
Are you confident that viewers on Sky Pacific will, at the end of all of this, be satisfied? Because there was at one point a lot of dissatisfaction, one with the programs on offer, two with the delivery of those programs, and three with the handling of Sky Pacific back office operations, all of which you are working on. How soon, let's put it this way, how soon before a Sky Pacific customer sits at home and is satisfied with the service?
Well, I think most Sky Pacific customers are satisfied with the service. Right? If they weren't satisfied, we'd see them leaving and going to other forms of entertainment, like the cinema and DVDs.
But even now there is only one subscriber-based TV service, and that is Sky Pacific.
Yeah, but there are other options. I mean, you can access other entertainment in Fiji online. Smartphone penetration's high. Everyone's got smart TVs. You connect your TV to Wi-Fi. So there are more options. So there are more choices for people. But I mean, the short answer to your question is I think that's already happening. So, I fully acknowledge we have some significant challenges right now and for the last 6 weeks in terms of our ability to process customer calls and so on about issues that we're working through, which we've covered already. But I think the feedback we've received about the new content has been very good, and I think the additional content we're putting through over the next 6 weeks between now and the end of June, I'm confident that standing here with you on the 30th of June, your Sky experience will be altogether different compared to how it is now. I think in the past, I think we can all recall 2 or 3 years ago when some of the content changes were made on Sky, and they didn't go down too well. You can't please all of the people all the time, but this is a mass market service. So it's about ensuring that the vast majority of your customers have an input into the changes you make and doing the right thing by the customer. And I'm really confident that all the changes we're going to make are going to be in the best interest of the customer.
Are you moving the Sky Pacific uplink from Suva to Papua New Guinea?
All of our equipment will be relocated to our central TV hub based in PNG over the next number of weeks. And that's always been planned in. It's vital that we have one TV hub, all the efficiencies that go with that. And also we need to come down, we have a very nice arrangement with Fiji TV post-acquisition whereby we continue to use some of their equipment and services and so on, but we have to cut the cord at some point, and over the next by the end of May that'll be complete.
What does that actually mean? Does that mean that Sky Pacific Fiji physically ceases to exist in Suva?
No, I don't think that means that. It just means that we've been using their offices, we've been using some of their equipment for the links that we have. And they've been a very cooperative and helpful partner with that. But we had a plan from the start to break free from any dependencies on Fiji TV, and they need to get along and do their own business as well. They have their own plan, and they don't need to be supporting Sky any longer than they have to. So that's the sort of dependency or relationship we have at the moment. You know, it's a very simple service. We send content up to a satellite and beam it down to homes, and you know, some of those changes have already been made, and you know, for the most part, customers haven't noticed in terms of some of those changes. We've already taken payments out of, say, the central server office of Fiji TV. Those payments are now made in Kandavo House, and those inquiries, and we've taken the customer care team out of the Fiji TV offices and into our own Culsa Road operations centre. So you know, we're actually almost all of the way through that process.
Does this also, because you're moving uplinks from Suva to PNG, do you entail any right sizing of jobs? Are people likely to lose jobs?
No, they're not likely to lose jobs. I think the team members that we have now are pretty much the team members we need to run the business. You know, in fact, we've had to increase the size of the Sky team to Digicel has some pretty good global standards in terms of customer service, from a call center point of view, from a backup point of view, retail, email services, other channels. We need to bring, our ambition is to bring those service levels to bear on the Sky platform. We're not there yet, but that's definitely a work in progress. But as I said before, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you know, we see this as, you know, we don't really think about Sky Pacific and Digicel. We want to move to just talking about one business, one integrated business.
Okay, and that brings us to the end of another segment. We will take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. We're speaking with Darren McLean, the Chief Executive of Digicel Fiji. Darren, we've been talking about Sky Pacific at length. Just before we move on to other matters, should subscribers expect an increase in their fee, given that you've spent about $5 million to acquire Sky Pacific, and now you're pouring in more money for content, service delivery, whatnot? Are you going to absorb these costs?
Well, to be honest, we haven't made a decision. We haven't made a decision on that yet. I mean, it's improving the quality of the content comes at a cost. That's for sure. And you know, we have not yet made the decision as to how we handle that. You know, Sky Pacific to date has not been an incredibly profitable venture. But you know, as we said at the start, the reason why we're buying into this is because we think we can make it a profitable business. And we can see the signs now of some things in that area improving. So you know, we're not ready to make any decisions or announcements about that yet. But you know, to be frank with you, my conversations with the customers that I've interviewed and talked on the street and friends and family, you know, is that customers, for the most part, would be willing to pay a little more for an improved product. So there's no way we're going to go and make any pricing changes and leave everything the same. So the decision's yet to be made, and the analysis is yet to really be done around how that plays through. But you know, I think I'm very confident at this stage that the majority of customers would be open to changes in the pricing if the programming and the service improves materially.
Digicel is considering this option.
We have to consider it, yeah, because so we've listened to customers at the start. So they've told us what they want to change, what they love, and what they don't love so much. So we've gone in our acquired content, and we've done that on the basis that's required to grow and build the service out. But whether or not we pass on those charges or any part of that cost to customers remains to be seen. But look, if anything changes on that front, on the pricing front, it's going to be fairly small. You know, we're not going to be talking about 10%, 20%, 30% changes in price. You know, I would actually like to actively drive down the cost of Sky in Fiji, but I can't do that and improve the picture and improve the quality of the content. It just doesn't work. So we're not standing still with this. We've introduced new content. We've got businesses in the region and in the Caribbean where we can leverage new content. We've got about 6 TV businesses around the group. So we're bringing that in already. And as I said, but some of the truly international content, in terms of, like we said, movies before, you know, that does come at a cost to us. But over the next, it is not in our plan over the next number of weeks to make any changes to anything whatsoever, apart from just fixing what we've got. So there's going to be no change on that front in the short term.
Looking forward, subscriber base for Sky Pacific under the previous owners capped off at a certain number, and it actually hovered thereabouts or somewhere below, somewhere above. How do you intend to get more customers in?
Yeah, I think it's there are opportunities from a distribution point of view. Accessing Sky and getting an installation has not been the easiest thing to do in the past, right? So I think bringing the Digicel distribution model in is going to be one part of that. The second part of it is how easy it is to work with us and interact with us, pay bills, make inquiries. That's another leg of the stool. And then I think the third part of it is around the actual product, so which we've talked about already, which is actually making some improvements to the programming. There's a lot of people who can actually afford to have Sky, who there's an opportunity there for Sky, but maybe the content in there just doesn't appeal to them at the moment, or maybe it did appeal, and then some changes have been made, and maybe they've gone off the product somewhat. So there's a huge opportunity for us to address the number of Sky, number of Sky customers out there who have boxes, who have working boxes, and all parts of Fiji, who simply need to be reactivated, who simply need to be given a reason to come back onto the service. So that's a plan we've worked through already, and as things calm down in terms from a service point of view, we'll be looking to address that opportunity. So that's a huge part of growing the Sky subscriber base.
Okay, let's look at Digicel and your mobile phone operations. You've been here 8 years now. Of course, you've made inroads into the market, but let's be realistic. The perception is that you haven't been able to break into the market as dominantly as your main competitor, Vodafone Fiji. So, are you confident that things are improving and you're getting there, or do you think that Digicel has found its niche market?
From a mobile perspective? No, I think actually we've seen more growth in the last 2 years than we've seen in the 2 years before that, or in the 3 or 4 years before that. So I would agree with you that we're number 2 in the market in terms of size. We have a very significant business all across the Pacific where we're the market leader. We're not the market leader in terms of market share in Fiji, and it has been a very challenging business for us here from a mobile perspective. And there's, but I think going back to August 2014, when we went nationwide 3G and we introduced Fiji's biggest 4G network, we've seen substantial improvements in customer feedback, customer growth, and our revenues across both the standard voice plans and in terms of data. So I'm actually very, very happy with the way the business performed in the last couple of years. So there's lots and lots of challenges here with the Fiji mobile market, but like our competitor has been here for 21 years, I think. So that's a significant head start in the market. But also, if you look at Digicel, I definitely don't see Digicel as a mobile brand in Fiji, and none of us in the team do. And I think increasingly our customers don't see us as a mobile brand. And there's many areas where we've shown that we're able to diversify in Fiji and grow into new areas. For example, take the acquisition of the Unwired business maybe 5 years ago. That's gone on from strength to strength. We've got a very successful Unwired product. We invested very heavily in ICT. There's thousands of customers, thousands of businesses around Fiji taking ICT services from Digicel now, whether that's being hosted services, fixed voice, internet into the building, networks, and so on. And that's all built around what we ultimately are, which is at the core of it, we're a wireless network. And we're looking to make that a little bit different now in terms of other technologies such as satellite and fiber systems. But then the latest chapter in the book, and the story, if you like, is around this entertainment segment and pay TV, which for us is Fiji is a hub for us, which I think is important to remember. We operate 5 networks out of Fiji. We have over 400 staff based in Fiji who run not only our Digicel Fiji business, but our Pacific business. So this is a significant regional office for us, where we manage the networks for Fiji, Nauru, Vanuatu, Tonga, and Samoa. And we have another significant hub in PNG, given the size of that market. But this is a very strategic location and business for us. And so, almost irrespective of what I do locally with the Digicel business, this, the local regional office here is of critical importance for growing those markets and other Digicel frontiers that we might be opening up over the next couple of years.
Okay, and with that, it's the end of one more segment. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly. Good evening. Welcome back to the show. Our guest tonight, the Digicel Fiji Chief Executive, Mr. Darren McLean. Darren, the way you're describing it is as if Fiji is a sort of stepping stone into growth into the region, but a number of markets where Digicel had already existed. But there was a $70 million investment announced a few years ago. This was to do with revamping transmission and 3G access and just moving the network into sort of the next phase. Are you going to continue that? Are we going to see more LTE services? We all know that smartphones are really easy to come by. A lot of people have smartphones, but it's just the accessibility to the broadband network which is a hindrance.
Well, so the short answer is yes. We have to keep investing. So for us, Fiji serves many purposes. It's a great business for us, which we're very happy with. It's a regional hub for us, like we talked about before. But it's also a place where we do a lot of innovation and experimentation. In Fiji, going back 6-7 years back, this was the market where we introduced data bundles, where Pacific people had data bundles for the first time. Going back to something as simple as that. This is our first market. This is the first telecommunications market in the Pacific where proper cloud services are being deployed for businesses of all sizes. The type of propositions that we launch here in the post-pay and the prepay space have never been done before. The network investment here is significant and on a like-for-like basis, much greater than our investment in other neighbouring countries for the same technology. So, I would say we've over-invested in Fiji deliberately because it's clear to us that Fiji, from a communications point of view, is at the leading edge. Okay, it's a very developed communications market, and we have a smart, strong competitor, which brings out the best in us. So it's actually a good place to operate. It's a good place to learn our lessons. It's a good place to introduce products, see how they go, and then export those around to other Digicel markets. So the LTE and 3G investment was massive, but it enabled us to take a whole another step up in terms of our growth in this market, and secondly, actually to secure the future. But absolutely, in terms of the LTE growth in Fiji, that needs to keep going. I would say that from a consumer point of view, we're not even close to sweating or maximising the opportunity that's been presented by LTE yet. Most consumers in Fiji do not have a 4G handset. Most have a data-enabled handset that's a combination of Edge and 3G. And for most customers, 3G is actually perfectly fine for what you want to do on your mobile. For the very high end, of course, faster speeds and so on. But we're far from the end of maximising the opportunity with regard to 4G services. But we've got 4G. You've got two operators in Fiji who have very significant 4G networks now. There are no other Pacific markets in the region that have anything close to the embarrassment of riches that Fiji has, and that's a really positive thing for Fiji. Huge amount of investment here, a very collaborative regulator and regime here. So it's been good for investment. Prices have gone down sharply over the last number of years, which you will have noticed. Data speeds are very, very good. The data coverage is good. LTE across all your main cities. So, Fiji has a very healthy communication sector and a lot of toys, I would say, for consumers.
One of the issues which you mentioned was costs. Of course, it's now regulated. There is an independent regulator. Most recently, the interconnectivity rates were brought down, more so for Vodafone into other networks. But how does that work for Digicel customers?
I'm glad you asked me that question, Edwin, because it's great for consumers that the Commerce Commission has taken this step. So the answer to the second part of your question was, what does that mean for Digicel? Well, nothing actually, because Digicel has been charging the same rate for whether you call one network or another network for a long, long time. Okay, so we have not discriminated against calling other networks. We haven't penalised people for having friends and family on other networks. It's the same rate to call a Digicel number as it is to call a Vodafone number on the Digicel network. However, the opposite is not true, which is it's been prohibitively expensive to call from Vodafone to Digicel. We charge our customers on a 30-second unit billing basis, and that's actually pretty normal in the region. And actually, Vodafone charge on a 30-minute billing basis too for their own customers. However, when those customers call Digicel numbers, they get charged, in the past, have been charged on a per minute basis. So if you make a 1 second call, that's a full minute. And that's been 40 odd cents, 42 cents, something in that range. Very expensive for a short call. That's created a significant barrier to cross-net calling. And it's kept families and friends apart, and it's crystallized the customers on the networks. The great thing now is it actually doesn't matter. It's immaterial, the cost difference between calling networks. Digicel has had the same rate as we said before for calling cross-net, and we've also introduced, when you have free credit with Digicel, you can call any network. In fact, you can call 15 international countries from your free credit, and that's gone down exceptionally well. But what the Commerce Commission, the determination, what it means for consumers is the cost for calling one network versus the other is exactly the same, save for a small charge for the value of the interconnect rate, which on a per minute basis is 8 cents. So for a 30-second basis, it's 4 cents. So if your charge for calling an on-net number or a number on the same network is, say, 20 cents for a 30-second call, it's now 24 cents. So that's an incredibly different situation than we were faced with before the 22nd of April. And I think everyone has seen, I think the regulator has seen that was actually possibly damaging to the mobile, but certainly possibly damaging to the mobile market, but certainly stifling competition. And I think they've had the foresight to see that some changes are required there. So the days of high costs for calling crossnet are absolutely gone in Fiji.
So we're talking about how services are evolving pretty much as we move along. Now, looking in hindsight, we can see where we've come up to, but looking into the future, there's a lot of demand for data, especially on smartphones, and of course Digicel is investing in 3G and 4G LTE. What sort of trends are you seeing in terms of consumers using their smartphones to make calls as opposed to using it for internet uses?
Well, I guess there's a few areas here where we're seeing clear trends. So we see the data consumption at an overall level increasing by double digits every year. We're seeing it's probably in the range of about 25%. The overall megabytes consumed by Fiji mobile users is probably around 25% higher than it was the same time last year. And that links clearly to the penetration of smartphones. So we estimate that smartphones are maybe 60% of the mobile base in Fiji, which is actually very high. So we have the benefit of all our other markets to benchmark ourselves by. But 60% in a market, in an economy such as Fiji's, is actually very, very high. And so consumers are doing more than ever on their mobiles. The screens are getting bigger. There's more, people are using YouTube instead of watching TV. In fact, people are seeing your TV program on YouTube, like I do in the evenings. So that all has implications for the volume of data that's pumping through the network. So that means it has implications for us. That what consumers maybe don't realize is that their rates for data have gone steadily south over the last couple of years. And in fact, your data rates on a per megabyte basis are the lowest in the world. And you can do your research on this. You compare any other market in the world, you're down at in the bottom 5% of all countries for rates of data and voice. So, you know, Fiji has very, very low rates for data. You know, customers also need to realize we have to pay for that data. And Fiji is a remote Pacific island, which is, you know, 1.5 hours to the next country. So all of that data is all delivered over fiber optic and satellite systems. Not much of it originates from within Fiji. So it's not the same economies as in Australia and New Zealand, although we keep getting compared. Why can't I get this or get that, and you know, I get it elsewhere in the world or elsewhere in the region? It's just the economics are very, very different.
And, well, okay. We have to take another break, I'm told. We'll be back shortly. Good evening, welcome back to the show. We're just about to wrap up and we'll continue discussions with Darren McLean, the Chief Executive for Digicel Fiji. Darren, everything that we've spoken about tonight, of course, comes at a cost. You've been investing and you continue to invest. Is Digicel Fiji in a position to make, say, a healthy profit or break even, or are you satisfied with how your books are turning out?
Look, this is a profitable business for us. It's my job to keep improving that. It's certainly better than break even. So, you know, we're actually very happy with where Fiji's at. But it also comes back to a lot around this is a very strategic investment for us. It's now, you know, it's our biggest pay TV subscriber base in the Pacific. You know, it's probably similar to other bigger markets, non-Digicel. So it's a technical network hub, it's a TV hub, it's a commercial hub. So, you know, separate to whatever our local business performance is, we're going to be here for a very, very long time. And as we said to the Minister for Finance and Communications earlier this week when the Chairman was here, we're a very happy investor and we're going to continue to invest. And in fact, we can see other areas where we can start to invest in other areas of communications in order to increase our own share of the business, but also actively drive up quality and drive down cost.
Well, just as we wrap up tonight, it was intriguing that the executive chairman of Digicel Fiji has made 2 visits in the last 6 months, I understand. It gives an indication as to how maybe something big is on the horizon for the big man to be coming down on such a regular basis.
Yeah, maybe there is, but I would say, all I can say about that is I think for us in Fiji, we should interpret that as a very, very positive sign around his level of interest and engagement around the Fiji business. You know, for him to come here twice in a very short space of time, I think is evidence of his, you know, really strong interest and excitement around what this Sky Pacific acquisition is going to do for us and Fiji, and also around, you know, the other opportunities that exist for us here. The Fiji economy is growing strongly. It's a very safe, positive business environment. So we can see actually lots of opportunities for us here in different ways. And don't forget, he's involved in many other businesses outside of mobile. So, you know, there's other ways in terms of how his other ventures might be brought in here or might help us in Fiji.
And just lastly, before we wrap up for the evening, Darren, mobile phone use, more so data usage, we believe is more centralized to urban locations, more developed areas. But the government has an intention to have e-commerce available to somebody sitting in a village in the interior of Fiji. Are we in a position? Is Digicel in a position to be able to partner into that intention of the government to have e-commerce available and 3G and LTE available in every part of Fiji? And how soon before we get there?
I would say yes, categorically yes. In fact, that's we had that specific conversation earlier on in the week, and the minister, you know, explained to us what his ambition or government's ambition was in terms of taking, you know, high-end services to rural areas. And so we're very clear that we'd like to be part of that and help wherever we can. And as we said, keep investing. You know, but I would bring us back. I would bring us back to what we have now. Don't forget that virtually all parts of Fiji can get high-speed data. Now, it might not be 10 megabits per second or 20 megabits per second as you can get in the main street of Sydney or Auckland, But there are very few parts in Fiji where you cannot get a smartphone running and e-commerce apps driving a small business or entertainment in the home. We have Digicel is invested in 3G services from Rotuma right through to Lakemba, and there are many parts of Fiji where only Digicel has high-speed data services. Thithia, Vanuatu, lots of other parts of the Lao group and other remote parts of Fiji where there are no other communications channels. There's no newspaper, there's probably no radio, there's no terrestrial TV, there is Sky, and more often than not there's Digicel coverage. So we're very proud of that, and it's I think people have learnt to associate Digicel with coverage and network quality. So, but yeah, if we can drive that LTE and 3G services to more of the interior parts of Vanua level and VT level, then we'll do that. It's very, very expensive. The cost model, the cost benefit is poor in most cases, otherwise we'd be there now. So whatever we can do with the government to, I guess, use some government funds or some of the telecommunications levy revenue that's applied to us and the rest of the industry, if we can invest in shared infrastructure in those areas, that's the way to unlock some of that growth.
Darren, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Minak.
And best of luck to you in the future.
Minak.
That was For the Record for this evening. Up next is the My Say segment, but if you have any comments or questions on For the Record, you can email us fortherecord@fbc.com.fj. I'll be back again next Sunday. Until then, good night.